It is your good friend Chad Marco again with another awesome anime review for you guys. And today I am going to review this athletic sportsmanship. Alright, just fuck it. Slam Dunk. Okay, now if you don't know, Slam Dunk is a basketball anime. Now don't run away. Don't click off just yet. Give this shit a chance. No, but I'm just kind of assuming that, maybe you guys aren't really into sports or anything like that. But man, let me tell you, I think anime can make anything interesting. I don't care if it's like playing cards or ping pong. I don't care. If you animate it, if you give it that anime that anime touch, man, anything can be awesome. And that's exactly what happened with Slam Dunk. But without further ado, let's talk about this cool anime called Slam Dunk. Now, Slam Dunk was created by Takehiko Ainu. You guys know I'm terrible with Japanese names, so forgive me, but pretty much Slam Dunk is a basketball anime. And just for the basketball illiterate amongst us, I'm just going to explain basketball a little bit for you guys. Now, of course, basketball is a team sport where you have 5 guys on each side. It's pretty much on the actual court. There are 5 guys against another 5 guys, and you have more teammates on the bench that can replace one of your 5 starters. Now, the object of the game is to get the basketball and pretty much move it into the opposing team's side of the court and get it to go through the hoop, which is suspended in the air. So because the actual hoop is so high in the air, it's a game that favors people who are tall, and that's why a lot of the characters in this are well over 6 feet tall or a little bit above 6 feet. It's pretty much considered like a tall man's game, even though short guys can be good at it as well. But of course, the opposing team isn't just going to let you go into their side of the court and dunk the ball in their face. So, while one team is on offense, the other team is playing defense, trying to prevent the opposing team from getting the ball through their hoop. And whether they're successful or not, then they get their chance with the ball to do the exact same thing to the opposing team. Now, there are multiple ways that you can get the ball into the actual hoop. Now, you can just lay it up into the hoop. You can slam dunk it into the hoop, hence the name Slam Dunk. Or you can shoot it from afar. And if you shoot it from far away enough, then instead of the usual 2 points per score, you get 3 points. It's called 3-point shot. Now that's just the basic gist of it, because there's a lot more to it. Like, you can't just like run with the ball and try to dunk it in their hoop. Like, you got to actually like dribble it every 2 steps. And when you're defending, you can't be too touchy. Like, you can't be too physical. Or when you're on offense, you can't be too physical. Like, it's not like a heavy contact sport like football. You gotta really have some finesse and care about the way you kind of interact with the opposing team. You can't just manhandle them and grab them by the neck and elbow them and shit like that. You gotta be careful. You can defend, but you have to defend elegantly. So, but yeah, there's a lot more to it, but that's the gist of it. I'm sure you guys have seen a fucking basketball game before. So let's talk about the actual, the actual main setting of Slam Dunk. Now, Slam Dunk takes place at a high school called Shohoku High. And the main character who just arrived here, he's a freshman. His name is Sakuragi Hanamichi. Now, Sakuragi, he's somewhat of a juvenile delinquent, getting into trouble and fights and stuff like that. He's a part of a gang. He has his hair dyed like fiery red. But despite all this, he's not really a bad guy. He's just I think him being so big and tall, I think that just kind of attracted negative attention his way. I think people just always wanted to test him, and he defended himself and beat the shit out of him. I mean, beat the shit out of them, and that kind of gained him a reputation as being a fighter. And so that's how I feel like he kind of ended up becoming sort of a delinquent. He's not really a bad guy. He's kind of an idiot, but not a bad guy. And right in the beginning, though, one of the things you notice about him is that he's looking for a girlfriend. And right in the beginning of the anime, when they introduce him, they show you that he's been rejected almost 50 times since being in middle school and hitting on all these girls. So now he's coming into high school and he's trying his luck again to find a girlfriend. So immediately he ends up developing a crush on this girl named Haruko. Now, Haruko, her brother is the captain of the basketball team, and she herself, she was a member, I think, of the girls' basketball team in middle school. So of course she has an interest in basketball. So once she meets Hanamichi, she notices that he's tall and athletic. So she encourages him to join the basketball team. Now Hanamichi, he's kind of an idiot, he's a show off and stuff. So instead of just humbly admitting that he knows nothing about basketball, he lies and says that he's a basketball genius just to kind of impress her so he can get her to like her. So they go to the gym and, she gives him the basketball, and of course he just makes a total ass of himself. He's traveling, he tries to dunk it and his head just slams against the backboard. So just a total mess. No basketball IQ whatsoever. And this whole incident ends up turning into somehow her brother Akagi, captain of the basketball team, gets involved, and him and Sakuragi end up having like a one-on-one match. Like, not a real, game, but they end up having like a little like scrimmage. And during this, even though Akagi's a lot better than Sakuragi, because Sakuragi has been, his whole thing is that even though he knows nothing about basketball, he's still tall. And when it comes to strength, he's like a freak. Like, he's probably one of the strongest guys in the anime. And he can fight, so he's very athletic. So they have like this little like scrimmage game, and he ends up doing like a few impressive moves, like just being able to jump really high and stuff like that and defend. So right off the bat, you see that he has potential to be a basketball player. He just doesn't know anything about basketball. Like, he has the build for it and the athleticism. He just doesn't know anything about the game. And alongside, meeting Akagi and his sister Haruko, there's also a new guy on the block named Rukawa. Now, Rukawa, he was like a basketball star in middle school. And so this is his freshman year alongside Hanamichi. But the difference is, Rukawa can actually play basketball. And Haruko, Sakuragi's love interest, is pretty much in love with Rukawa, because not only is he like tall, pretty, and quiet and cool, he's also a very good basketball player. Now Haruko, she played basketball in middle school. Her brother's the captain of the basketball team. So of course she ends up just instantly just loving Rukawa. And so since she likes Rukawa, now Hanamichi has a beef with Rukawa. So they end up becoming like rivals, and their relationship reminds me so much of the rivalry between Naruto and Sasuke, because of course you have one who's kind of inexperienced, goofy, people don't believe that he can actually do it. He just, just, very poor skills. And a prankster and stuff like that. And then the other guy is more calm, cool, collected, and obviously very skilled. Like the whole dynamic between Hanamichi and Rukawa is very similar to Naruto and Sasuke. I mean, that is a perfect comparison for these two. And they end up becoming rivals. Now, when I say rivals, I say that loosely. I mean, because let's be fair, Hanamichi, he's not nearly as skilled in basketball as Rukawa. So even their rivalry is kind of one-sided. I think Rukawa just kind of looks down on Hanamichi, and Hanamichi just wants to be as good or better than Rukawa so he can impress Haruko and win her affection. So yeah, once that whole thing goes down and Haruko encourages him to join the basketball team and he has a match with Akagi, he ends up joining the basketball team, of course. So now, like I said, he knows nothing about basketball. So a lot of the early episodes are just him learning the basics. Like he wants to just jump in and start dunking on fools and all that. But they're like, hold on. You don't know shit about basketball. You got to learn the basics. So they got to like teach him how to dribble. He has to learn the actual rules of basketball, the fundamentals, passing. It's a team sport. You got to work together, so that's a lot of the early anime. Him just learning how to play basketball. But the thing is now, early on, he only joined the basketball team to impress Haruko, to impress a girl. But during the process of learning the game and, having his first actual like scrimmage match with a different team, he ends up actually falling in love with the game. Who would have thought? So just over the course of the anime, you see Sakuragi transform from, this unfocused delinquent to somebody who's really passionate about basketball and becoming good at the sport. And along the way, there are more like guys who join the team. Like initially, the main guys on the team are Akagi, he's the captain. Then you have Hanamichi and Rukawa. And further down the line, you get two other guys to join the starting five named it's Ryota and Michi. And those five, they're like the main group, like the main starting five. I mean, there are other guys on the team, but they're just like backup bench warmers. Like those five are like the main characters, the main five, the starting five. The superstars of the team, so to speak. And they sort of come together, and even though they often butt heads and fight with each other, they still have like this brotherly bond, and they're growing together, and just trying to be a good team so they can win the national tournament. And for the most part, the anime is pretty much just about watching Hanamichi grow as a player, his interactions with his teammates, and watching them grow and their struggles as well. Because, even though most of the other players are already more acclimated to the game of basketball, they still have their own personal problems. Like, Akagi, he's dealing with injury. And this is his last year being able to make it to the nationals. Then you have Michi, who, he had a long time off and he's trying to rebuild his stamina and get a feel for the game again. Then you have Rukawa, who's, he feels kind of alone on the team because, he's very talented, but, he kind of has an ego about himself, and he's thinking about going to America. And, Ryota, he's kind of like Hanamichi in that, he's in love with a girl. So they like, all the characters have their own like little personal issues going on. But with Hanamichi, the main character, his whole thing is more about just trying to learn the game, period. Because he just, like I said, from the get-go, he knows nothing. And of course, you get to see him grow as a player and all that, so it's cool. And this anime covers them trying to compete through the interscholastic tournament. This is like, The interscholastic tournament is like the pre-tournament to the big tournament. That's really what this anime covers. And that's what you're going to see them go through. Like, coming together as a team, trying to make it through, this tournament just full of like, other dangerous teams as well. So that's the gist of what Slam Dunk is about. Now, next I'm going to talk about the awesome, cool, tall characters in this anime. Stay tuned. Okay, so let's talk about the characters for a little while. Now, of course, the main character's name is Hanamichi Sakuragi. And like I said earlier, he's somewhat of a juvenile delinquent. He's always getting into fights. He's getting into trouble. He's always rolling with his gang, but they're not like I said. They're not like bad, like just asshole people. They're just guys who always end up in fights somehow. So they kind of stick together and watch each other's back. But the good thing for him was that once he got to high school, he got into basketball. And to stay on the basketball team, part of the whole rules is that you can't get into fights and stuff like that. Even though he does get into fights anyway, but like being a part of the basketball team kind of keeps him out of trouble, because after school, instead of hanging out, he's going to the gym, he's practicing hard, and he's focused on getting better. Like, he's really dedicated to getting better at the sport, and that kind of keeps him focused on things other than fighting and just hanging out with the guys. So basketball, him getting into basketball ends up being like a very good thing for him. And I think like there was one moment where they showed like a flashback to his past when he was younger, and he was such a good fighter that he ended up beating up like 5 guys at the same time. And then he just left and went home. And when he went home, his dad was having a heart attack, and he was about to die. And Sakuragi, he was so close to just being able to go get help. But the second he left the house, those same guys that he beat up earlier, they came back with like 5 more guys. And so he was fighting them the whole time his dad was just sitting there dying on the floor. And that moment kind of affected him to where like he kind of like, I think that kind of made him kind of think twice about his ways and just just being so reckless and always trying to get into trouble and stuff like that. So he seems like more the type of wanting to avoid conflict, but at the same time he will knock your ass out. And like he really does kind of remind me of like early Yusuke. Like that's kind of who he reminds me of, because that's just the initial vibe that I got from him before he got way into basketball and stuff like that, just because of all the fights that happened early on in anime. And of course, like I said, he has this whole crush on Haruko. He's despite being like this big tough guy, he's definitely like kind of a, what you would say, a lover. So he's always wanted a girlfriend, and he has like a big soft spot for Haruko. And even while he's playing basketball, he's always getting distracted by her. Like if he sees her, like he's always like trying to look at her, or if he dunks or does some type of big move, like he's always like thinking of her, like, oh, she must have thought I look so cool. Like he's just really into her. Like he's really like, that's like what you would call, I guess, his love interest for the anime. But overall, I say he's a likable character. I mean, he just kind of, I guess he just has that kind of generic main character anime thing where like they're just goofy and like he definitely has that sort of Goku, Naruto goofiness about him, and even though he can get serious and dedicate himself to something, like it's really hard to tell like how serious he's taking basketball, just because of like all the joking and all the little funny shit he's doing on the side and the fighting and just little dumb moments, like while in the middle of a basketball game, like looking over at Haruko and getting totally distracted and shit like that. Like moments like that make you kind of question his seriousness, but at the same time, there are also those moments that kind of show like he's really fully dedicated to learning how to play basketball, and he really doesn't want to lose. In fact, there was one game where it got really heated. Like, I think it was about to be they were like 1 point away from making it like a tie game and going into overtime or something. And, Sakuragi, being so new to the game, like right at the end of the game, like I think he had got a rebound or somebody passed it to him, and he made a mistake and passed it to somebody on the other team. And he felt so, like, that moment, like, he took that very personally because he felt like he fucked it up for his whole team. And he was even crying after that shit. Like, he was so upset that he was crying after it. And he didn't know how he could repay what he did to the guys. So what he did was he just shaved his head. He just shaved all his hair and just, that was sort of his redemption, his way of saying sorry for making such a stupid mistake in the middle of the game. But moments like that just show that he really does care about trying to win and be the best he can be at this game. And it's just the fact that he was so inexperienced that in the heat of the moment, he just ended up making like a dumb mistake like that. But overall, I would say that he's a likable character. It's just that I just always wonder, like, why does the main character always have to be so goofy? Like, why do they always have to be that guy? Like, why couldn't Rukoa be the main character? Like, I just don't get it. Like, why? Like, why is it the Goku instead of Vegeta? Why is it the Naruto instead of Sasuke? Why is it the Hanamichis instead of Rukoas? That's what I don't understand. It's always the silly, goofy guy who's just really talented. But yeah. Now the next character is Rukawa. Now he's essentially Sakuragi's rival. But I say rival loosely because, like, really, he's not really anywhere near Rukawa's level. Because, like I said earlier, Hanamichi is pretty much a total noob to basketball. He's just really talented because he's strong, he can jump really high, he's super athletic, but when it comes to like fundamentals, he doesn't really have it. Like, he had to, like, for many practices, they just had to put him to the side so he could just learn how to dribble and do like basic stuff like passing and stuff like that. And as opposed to the rest of the guys on the team who all have like years of experience, especially Rukoa. In middle school, he was known as sort of a basketball superstar, at least, for that little middle school league. And going into high school, everyone was already anticipating him joining the basketball team and being able to help out Akagi, who for years just always kind of held the team up by himself. But they had no idea that they were going to get a treat like Hanamichi as well. They were all just kind of waiting for Rukoa. Now, as far as like his personality, like he's really what I could say the Sasuke of the group. I mean, he's just like quiet, moody, always in his own world. Like, you don't like, just doesn't really communicate with people. I don't know, just doesn't really express himself the same way that the other characters do. Like, he's more quiet and stays himself. And a lot of times you see him, he's either sleeping or playing basketball. Like, he's not just, it seems like he's totally like 100% laser focused on basketball. If it's not basketball, then he's just resting. If he's not resting, then it's basketball. But anytime you see him, it's just everything is basketball. And probably out of everyone on the team, he's probably the best player overall. And that's like I said, it's probably a reflection of his dedication to the sport, how he just doesn't do anything else but play basketball. And yeah, and he kind of ends up being Sakuragi's rival, primarily because Haruka, the girl that Sakuragi likes Rukoa. Well, really all girls like Rukoa. Like, he's super popular with the girls, just like Sasuke was in Naruto. Like, that's just who he reminds me of so much. Just Sasuke. Black hair and all that shit, except just really tall. But overall, like, I think that it's good to have characters like Rukoa to kind of balance things out. When you got somebody just so outgoing and gregarious as Hanamichi. You kind of need somebody to kind of like balance that off. And I think that that's really Rukawa's role. Like, he's the more serious, straight man of the two. Like, just always, no games, no joking. It's basketball with him. And even though he's always like, staying to himself and stuff like that, he still kind of seems like he cares about the team and being a team player and stuff like that. But he can be a little selfish on the court, like, cause but I think that just comes with being so good and believing in yourself. He can be a little selfish on the court, but he's no less a member of the team than anybody else. Just probably got a bit of ego about himself, even though he won't readily express it. He won't say it, but I think Rukawa really, he likes the smell of his own shit, basically. All right, now Haruko, like I said earlier, that's the love interest of the anime. Every anime, I guess, gotta have a love interest, and that's the role that Haruko fulfills. Now, I think she played on the girls' basketball team when she was in middle school, and of course, her brother is Akagi, captain of the basketball team. So she's very much into basketball. In fact, she's the one that taught Sakuragi how to do a layup while he was still, learning the basics and stuff like that. Even though she's kind of like her whole thing is being Sakuragi's love interest, it throughout the whole anime, there's really no evidence of her showing any type of affection or attraction towards him. It seems like they have more of a like brother-sister relationship. I hate to say it, but that's really the only thing I really got out of it, was that she just seems like she's at the very least, she's definitely interested in him growing as a basketball player, because she was the one that initially saw that he had talent for it just by being so tall and athletic, and she encouraged him to play basketball. But beyond that, I don't really see any type of like real like relationship forming. I mean, over the course of 100 episodes, I see like no type of like growth in that relationship. So I say love interest, but it's totally one-sided. She's into Rukawa. She's totally in love with him, but he's in love with basketball, and it is what it is. But as a character overall, I guess, she's all right. I guess you just got to have a love interest in anime. So she kind of fulfills that role. So yeah. Now you have Gorilla, or Akagi. He's the captain of the basketball team. Now, he's a third year, so for years, he's just been carrying this whole team on his back. I mean, even though like he pushes the other guys to train hard and be good, like for all these years, he's always been sort of the star player on the team with no real help. So he's been carrying this team for years, and so that's why he's been like this year. He's so excited because he got Rukawa to join the team, and then when he met Hanamichi, he immediately noticed that he had talent for it. He just needed to learn the basics and the fundamentals. So this was, and in fact, this is pretty much his last chance to be able to win the whole thing. That's always been his dream since he first joined the basketball team. He's always wanted to win the nationals, but could never really make it past even the interscholastic tournament because his team was just so ass. But now he feels like he finally has a chance because he got a star in Rukawa, and he's got Hanamichi, who's just full of talent and potential. So now he's just super excited, but he's really like just the stability of the whole team, because Hanamichi, of course, he's so inexperienced, he's so goofy, he loses focus easily and stuff like that. And Rukawa, he's just too into himself, too quiet, too selfish, and that's why you kind of need somebody like Akagi to kind of bring all these guys in and work together as a team. So he's really the whole rock, like the solid rock of the group. As far as like his role on the actual basketball team, he's somewhat like the center, and the center, like their whole role is to kind of like hang around the actual like hoop and defend and get dunks and just really bully the fuck out of people. That's his whole role, like just big bully on the court. But of course, he's also the captain, so he's kind of dictating the flow of everything as well. Let me see who's next. But yeah, he's cool character, kind of very necessary to kind of keep things like together and stable and functional. I think without him, there's no way that team would even be able to function because they're all just so wild and crazy. Okay, next you have Ayako. Now Ayako is the assistant trainer to Anzai, the main coach. And I really like now that's the girl that I like out of this whole anime. I like her because they gave her like black girl lips, and I can always appreciate that. But out of all the girls in this shit, like she was the one that I liked the most because she wasn't just like just there to be like somebody's love interest or eye candy. Like she actually played a role as far as like being a part of the staff for the team, being the assistant coach and supervising Sakuragi as he learned the basics and fundamentals and stuff like that. So she actually had an actual role to play as far as on the team. So I appreciate that about her, and she was really cute. But she's the love interest of another character called Ryota. We'll talk about him later. And then there's also the Coach Anzai. Now he's like this fat white. I'm assuming he's Japanese, but he looks like just some fat KFC white guy. But apparently he played I think he was a basketball player when he was a teenager, and he ended up becoming head coach for a college team. And back when he was head coach for a college team, he was kind of known as like the White Devil. Like he was known as being like a strict militant, like hard ass coach and really running his players down to the bone. But he had this incident where one of his players didn't like the way that he was coaching him. He felt like he had more potential, so he left Japan and went to America. And while he was in America, he had died in a car accident. And Coach Anzai, he took that personally. And I feel like ever since then, that's what kind of made him go through like that sort of personality change where how you see him now, where now they call him like he went from the White Devil to the White Buddha. Like he's just always like smiling and laughing. He doesn't really say much as far as like coaching. Like really, like you can really say like the coach is more. That's more Akagi's role. Like I feel like he does more as far as like actually coaching, but like Coach Anzai, he's like when he does talk, it's like exactly what they need. Like he's a man of few words. Like he won't say much. Like he's just there watching and observing and just totally focused. Like never getting mad or upset. Not like barely showing any emotion. But when he does talk, it seems to be like the exact thing that they need. In fact, one of the players on the starting five, his name is Michi. He talked about when he was playing in middle school that he was, and I think because this was like the last game of the middle school tournament, and Michi had lost all hope. Like he felt like they just couldn't close it out, and so. Right at the end of it, he had like failed and crashed to where Coach Anzai was. Now, this wasn't even his coach. He was just there spectating. But he gave him like just one bit of encouragement, like just some motivation. He said something like, it's not over till it's over, or don't give up. And somehow that just reinvigorated him. And he went back on the court. I think he went out there and hit a 3 or something. And he won the whole middle school tournament. And ever since then, he was like a star. But yeah, like that's kind of Anzai. Like he doesn't say much, but when he does talk, it's just what they need. Like he's just like he's still kind of seen as being like this basketball genius. It's just that he's just not out there just dictating orders and yelling and shit like that. Just real chill. It's like having like Buddha as your coach, which is pretty cool. Now. The next character is another one of the starting five. Ryota Miyaga. Now, this guy, out of the starting five, he's the shortest. He's like 5'5". But his role is to be their point guard. Now, even though he's really short, he's like super fast and athletic. Because like Hanamichi, he was kind of a delinquent, getting into fights and stuff like that. And like when they first met, they kind of butted heads. Like they didn't like each other at first, but then they kind of met and they went off and talked. And they both learned that both of them have always been getting rejected time and time again. And they had like this male bonding moment over there. Like, man, we both just getting rejected left and right. And it was like this whole like just bro moment. And ever since then, him and Sakuragi became friends. And they both can relate to each other because not only have they always been getting rejected, but they also have like a one-nightis. And for Sakuragi, that's Haruko. And for Miyagi, that's Ayako. So just, they have that in common. So they just kind of bond over that. And then, like I said, they're also kind of like, kind of fighty guys. Like get into fights and trouble and shit like that. So, but probably he's one of my favorite characters because I like how they kind of included a short guy, like just to give like short guys hope because everybody is so tall in this fucking anime. Like this is the first anime I've seen where like almost every main character is just like over 6 feet or close, and I like how they included like somebody that's not only like not 6 foot, but they went like 5'5", just to show that even short guys can kind of ball out too. So I thought that was cool. And when they introduce him, it's like, oh man, like him, like, because I think what happened was he was a part of the team before Hanamichi even got there. But what happened was he got in this big fight with the gang and he was in a hospital for a while. And so he ended up getting out of the hospital. And then they were wondering if he was going to join the basketball team, the basketball team again, and that's kind of how he joined the team. Like, but before he even got settled in, there was like this big like gang war, and I'll talk about that shit later. That shit was crazy. Okay, now next character is Mitsui, but I think his nickname is Michi. Now he's the shooter of the group. Like he's the guy if you need like a 3-pointer. Like, you need 3 points or you need somebody to shoot on the outside, that's your guy. Like, that's his role. Like, he's the guy that, he can get, like, the long-range shots. Sakuragi, he's good for rebounds. Akagi, he's a good center. Rukawa, he can just do everything and take over the game. Miyata, he's the point guard. He can dictate the flow of there and everything like that. But Michi is the shooter. That motherfucker can hit them damn threes. But... Now, like I said earlier, he was like a star in middle school. Like he won the whole middle school tournament and all that. But what happened was when he went to high school, he was a first year alongside Akagi, the captain that's there now. And in the effort to try to outdo Akagi, he ended up injuring he ended up having like a bad like knee injury or something. And he ended up in the hospital. And they told him, you need to wait, you can't play. But of course, him having a big ego, he feel like he's a superstar. He tries to go out and play even though he hasn't been cleared yet. And so he ends up re-injuring the old injury. And so now he has to sit out for a longer time. And so that whole ordeal just made him completely give up on basketball. And after that, he pretty much joined the gang and, he just been getting into fights and stuff like that. So when his character is introduced, you don't even realize like that he was this basketball star. He just, for some reason, he's just trying to pick a fight with Ryota and everybody else. And so when he comes into the picture, he has like a whole gang behind him and they attack the whole basketball team and they had like this big fight in the basketball gym and shit was fucking crazy. But eventually they learned about his past and how he used to be a basketball player, but the injury made him, go way left. And after that, they had like this big emotional moment where he meets Coach Anzai and he gives up his life of crime and decides to rejoin the basketball team again, and he becomes a member of the squad. And yeah, he's another, overall, I'd say he's a good character. I think it's interesting because of his background, going from like a basketball star to a pretty much a hoodlum, and then getting back into basketball. And because of all his time off, one of the things you see is when he starts playing, he doesn't have the same stamina. Like, he gets tired quick. So I like how they included that, because it's no way you can just take all that time off basketball and just come back and, be back in superstar form. But at the very least, he can still hit them threes. But overall, I like him as a character because you need a shooter. And then there's Kogure. He's the sixth man of the group because every basketball team needs a bench. He's pretty much the sixth best player. Once the whole starting five gets there, Hanamichi, Rukawa, Akagi, Ryota, Michi, once they all kind of get together, that becomes the starting five. And Kogure, who was always Akagi's right-hand man, he kind of gets pushed to the bench. He becomes the sixth man, but he's not a bad basketball player by any means, though. Like, he's definitely very important to the team because, maybe Hanamichi gets fouled out, or maybe somebody gets hurt or injured. He's the guy that can replace him. He's a solid replacement for pretty much anybody else on the team. And that's why he's such an important part of their structure, because if anybody gets hurt or in foul trouble, you can just call on Kogure to take his place. But just another basketball head, nothing really special as far as his personality. Then you have Yohei. Yohei is he's a part of Sakuragi's gang. He's I guess, now really, to be honest, I don't know who's the better fighter, Yohei or Sakuragi. They never really established that in the anime, but you do get to see him fight, and he does seem to be like a very good fighter, and like crazy good, actually. That's why I kind of question, because Sakuragi is kind of like built up to be just this freak of nature athletically and strength wise, but Yohei seems to have like something special about him too. But he doesn't really join the basketball team or anything like that. But that's why I just had to mention him, because like out of all of Sakuragi's friends before, outside of basketball, he seems to be the most significant. Like, once Sakuragi is focused on basketball, Yohei sort of becomes the leader of Sakuragi's gang. And overall, he's a cool guy. He always makes sure he has Sakuragi's back, because since he's playing basketball, he's not supposed to get into fights. So if he gets into trouble, Yohei can show up. Hey, I'm not playing basketball. I can fight for you. Whose ass I got to kick. So that's why I like him. And of course, you got like all kind of rivals, like Sendo, Uzumi, Maki, Fuku. And that's another strong part of this anime, like kind of like Hajime no Ippo, where it's not just the main characters that are interesting and fleshed out. They also have like their basketball rivals and other teams full of interesting players with different strengths and weaknesses and stuff like that. So yeah, but that's way too many little names. So that's the characters, the main characters that are the most important. And next, I'm going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. My favorite part. Stay tuned. Okay, so first, let's talk about the good. What I liked about Slam Dunk. Now, first of all, this shit was funny as hell. And that was kind of unexpected, but this is probably one of the funniest shows I've seen, like as far as anime. And I would put it up there with like Cromartie, like what was it, Cromartie High? Because that shit was funny too. Like, it's a surprising amount of actual like good comedy in this anime, and I mean just like gag after gag, joke after joke, especially like with Hanamichi, because he's so goofy and always just doing like little pranks, and his just not knowing how to play basketball, and how like all those moments just kind of, just all the bad shit, all the dumb things you can do in basketball, he finds a way to do it. Like traveling, knocking his head against the backboard, just getting fouled out, like stupid fouls and stuff like that. Like he just does everything that you could possibly do stupid in basketball. Stupid. And that's the hilarious thing. That's just one of the funny things about it. Just seeing him just always fuck up, trying to play basketball correctly. And just all kinds of funny moments in this anime. And that's really one of his strongest points. Besides like the actual the actual basketball games and the action, it's actually really fucking fun. Like not like laugh out loud, like ha funny all the time, but just like, oh, that was clever, that was okay, that was witty, I like that. And that's what I can really appreciate about Slam Dunk. It's actually a fucking funny ass anime. Okay, now next, good plot. Now, when I say good plot, I don't mean like the story is just like on some Death Note shit, but I would say at the very least, it keeps you interested. It keeps you interested in the growth of Hanamichi and the progression of the team. Seeing the team come together and seeing them kind of learn to play together and become a unit, become one, seeing their growth and stuff like that. I think that is really the selling point for this anime. It's like that's done very well, like keeping you engaged, making you want to see the next episode. And I think really more than anything, just wanting to see Hanamichi's potential realized. That's really what kept me so engaged, is wanting to see, when is he gonna slam dunk? When is he gonna shoot? When is he gonna hit a three? Like just wanting to see him grow as a player, because that he has so much potential just because of how strong and fast and tall he is. And you can't help but want to see all that, like just see all those talents be fully utilized. And that's a big part of what made Slam Dunk interesting and makes you want to keep going. But like I said, and then especially once they get to the actual interscholastic tournament, because then now you're seeing like their actual like rival teams and the matches, and wanting to know like what's gonna happen next in the game. Oh, Ruka was getting hot, or the other team just hit a slam dunk. Oh, Akagi got injured. Oh, now Hanamichi's fouled out. Like the matches stay interesting, and I mean, as you can imagine, those actual basketball matches, they're like long as hell. I'm talking like like 6-7 episodes. Like one basketball match can be like I mean, man, like some of those games take like a lot of probably almost damn 10 episodes to finish like one game. So, and just wanting to see like how those games end, like who's gonna win and stuff like that, because since this is basketball, it's not like life or death. Like these guys actually do like lose some of their games, spoiler alert. So you can never really get comfortable as far as like predicting whether or not they're gonna win a game. And so it's always interesting not really knowing how it's gonna go. And a lot of those games are really fucking close. Like really like maybe two, like they might win or lose by 1 or 2 points. So some of those basketball games keep you on the edge of your seat. On the edge of your seat. Now, this came as a surprise, but there's actually a lot of fighting in this anime. And I don't mean basketball fighting. I mean like fist fights, gang wars, and like even the first episode, Hanamichi and Sakuragi. No, that's the same guy. Oh man, oh shit. But yeah, Hanamichi and Rukawa, they get into a fist fight in the first episode, and like Rukawa was all bloody, like he had blood dripping down his head, and Hanamichi had a bloody nose. And that was just the beginning. I mean, when it got to the point where Ryota and Michi were about to join the team, but Michi wanted to bring his gang and fight those guys at the gym. I mean, that was like what, like 5-6 episodes of just fighting, bro. Like straight up, like just gang, like just gang shit. Like it was just it was. I mean, I swear, dude. Like early on in this anime, it definitely had shades of like Yu Yu Hakusho, just without the demons and shit. Like it ain't one of them demons or nothing. But as far as like just fist fighting and stuff, like that's what it kind of reminded me of. It was just like just these juvenile delinquents just fighting each other. And man, I was really surprised though how much fist fighting was a part of this anime. I mean, I expected just all out basketball. I mean, but it was a welcome surprise. I didn't hate it because, you know, I can appreciate a good, you know, combat anime, but I was just surprised there would be so much fighting, like fist fighting in a fucking basketball anime of all things. But it definitely helped keep things a little bit more interesting though, especially early on, because early on, they weren't really in the big tournament, the interscholastic tournament, and Hanemichi wasn't that good of a basketball player. So I feel like those early like gang fights and stuff, I feel like that helped make the early part of Slam Dunk a little bit more interesting than it would have been just watching Hanemichi learn how to dribble and shit like that. So that was cool. Now, also, it had awesome art style and character design. Now, since this was made in the early 90s, like the animation isn't always, you know, it's not always like super fluid, and you know every frame is just highly no, but I just like overall I just like the way the characters are designed. It's like their designs aren't like the typical like oversimplified anime style, and that's what I like about it. Like how like Akagi, you know, he's kind of tan and he's got like the big black guy lips, and then you got Ryota, who's he's got like the like little fade haircut, like just like even the hairstyles and stuff. I love the designs of these characters. Like they all just look so cool and tough, and they're tall. Like I just love their overall character design. There's so much like variety and stuff like that. That's what I like about it. It's not just a typical like same face shit like that. I love the character design in this. Like just this art style, man, it's just cool to me. Now, last but not least, an accurate representation of basketball. Now, I'm no basketball genius myself, but I've been getting more into it lately. Really, the last basketball season was really the first one where I really paid attention to the entire season. And even before that, I was getting more into basketball, and I got friends who like basketball. And, you know, I can always ask them about certain rules and stuff like that. So I've been learning more about basketball. So, you know, watching this, I was surprised at like how faithful they were to the actual sport of basketball. Like that's what really surprised me and what I really liked about it. As far as like the rules and the proper use of terminology, especially with Hanemichi, like all the basics that he had to learn and the way that they were explaining to him, all of that stuff was pretty accurate to what I know about basketball. You know, in fact, like I remember someone always telling me, like, learning how to shoot, you start with the layup and then you work your way back. And that's really the same thing that Hanemichi did. He learned how to do the layup from Haruko, and then he learned how to shoot from Coach Anzai. So that's just, and then of course, like things like being in the middle of a basketball match or game, and maybe you're being a little bit too aggressive on defense or offense, so you start getting into foul trouble. Like, those are real problems that NBA players run into, like having to deal with having too many fouls, and now you got to sit down for a portion of the game so you don't get fouled out early and they can bring you back later. So, and then they even had like those little like basketball trivia moments where like the little cartoonist guy would come and explain, certain basketball details more in depth and stuff like that. And they even had the fucking Jordans. Like, he went Jordan shopping. Like, that's how basketball this shit was. Like, Hidemichi was rocking the Jordans on the court. So, I mean, it's not like just, you can tell that the creator of Slam Dunk knew his way around basketball and wasn't just, kind of using it as a, just some platform for anime hijinks. Like, you can tell that he really knew the sport in and out, and I can really appreciate that as, a casual fan of basketball, Now, the bad. What I didn't like about Slam Dunk. Now, gotta be honest, sometimes there were times where the anime got kind of dull. And what I mean by that is just like it's sometimes it would happen like in the middle of a game, because the way this shit is structured is like, you would have a basketball game and they would spend like it would be minutes like before someone would actually score. Cause you know how anime does, like they'll cut to like the people on the sidelines, giving their thoughts on the game, and then they'll go into Hanemichi's mind and what he's thinking about, and the opponents, they're trying to formulate a plan, or, just, there are just certain times within the anime where the action just slows down too much. And I think that kind of hurts it, where it's just, they just take it too slow sometimes. And if you watch basketball, the thing about basketball is that it's really like constant back and forth. Like, you score, now you running back to the other side, and they do that. Like, don't get me wrong, like they definitely like do the whole fast break and all that. But it's just certain times within the anime where it's just not enough going on beyond, like, I don't know. It's like you just get stuck in like basketball. Like, it's for over 100 episodes. Can you really just sit there and watch basket? Like, I think that's kind of the issue there. Is like, I think past a certain point, you kind of get overwhelmed by all the basketball. It's almost, I wouldn't say too much basketball, but I think it's a hard thing to keep interesting, because I think even people who like professional basketball, NBA and all that, a lot of those guys, they don't watch all the games like until the playoffs. They might watch like highlights and stuff like that, and then it's not really good until the or they don't really take a strong interest in it until the actual playoffs. And that's kind of how I felt watching this, is that every basketball game in this just wasn't super exciting or interesting, beyond of course just wanting to see Hanemichi's growth and what he would do. Just sometimes it would go just a little bit too slow. But yeah, I think for 100 episode of anime, that's, I'm not really surprised that there were certain points where I kind of lost interest and kind of, started watching something else or something like that. But overall, I would say that, it had, pretty good pacing and stuff like that. But it was just certain times I just got a little tired of it and just needed to take a break, Now, the next thing is Hanemichi's slow growth. Now this was very this was very frustrating for me, but on one hand I can understand why they chose to make the main character a total basketball noob. Maybe that's so, the people who are watching or reading the manga, maybe they want to get into basketball, but maybe they don't have any, maybe they don't have any experience, so they can relate to Hanamichi and him being a total noob to the game and learning the basics and fundamentals and slowly working his way up. But I think also Hanamichi being a total noob, that kind of allowed you as the viewer to kind of see like that, like really what it takes to be a basketball player. Because, if a character like Rukawa was the main character, you wouldn't really see that full journey of going from a novice to a master. And that's the good thing about Hanamichi having being a total noob, and you get to see his growth. But at the same time, it was, to me, I just feel like it was almost too slow. I mean, to be honest, out of the 101 episodes, it wasn't until like episode 70 that's when I would say that he had his moment where everything kind of came full circle. Not that he's became a master or anything, but where he became just good enough. I would say episode 70, right around there, that's when he became just good enough. But before that, just watching him slowly progress and having to learn how to dribble and having to learn the rules, or you can't travel, you got to watch out for fouls and this and that, and you don't know how to shoot, and you can dunk, but then you get fouled when you dunk. Just all that stuff, man. It made it so frustrating. And this is the main character. And I think back to Naruto, and what I appreciate about that is, again, you get to see Naruto go from being a total novice as a ninja to, really coming into his own. But I just feel like his development was a lot faster. Initially you see him get in his first real fight, conflict, and total freeze up. He goes from that to, beating Kiba and other guys at the Chunin exam. So you get to see his growth, but it's kind of, it's not that slow. It's about episode 30, 40 where he starts coming into his own. But with Hanamichi, it just seemed a lot slower. It wasn't really until 70 where I felt all right, he's becoming the man for real. He's not just getting rebounds and stuff like that. He's actually he can score now. He can really hit a dunk or something like that. So, but even though I say it's a bad thing, I would say it's a good thing as well for the reasons that I mentioned earlier, is that as a viewer, you get to see that journey from novice to master. And, I wouldn't change that, but it does get frustrating because his growth is really slow. But that's really what you got to expect, because basketball is, as a sport, it's not that easy to learn. You're not going to just get it right in one season or one tournament or a couple games, and that's really all they managed to cover in this whole anime. So I think his slow progression is a little frustrating, but at the same time I feel like it's necessary, and I wouldn't change it, but that doesn't make it any less annoying watching him breaking the simple rules and stuff like that. But yeah. Now, last but not oh man, yeah, I'm getting tired. Last but not least, the anime ends prematurely. Now, this is something that I've run into quite often being an anime, because as you know, a lot of animes are based off of manga, but it's a lot more expensive to make an anime than it is to keep a manga going. So sometimes when there's an anime adaptation made, it doesn't cover the entire manga. You know, I ran into that with Blade of the Immortal, Trigun, all kinds of other animes. And it's no different here. Even though it's 101 episodes, it does not cover the entirety of Slam Dunk. And this is an anime review, so I have to kind of hold that against them, because if you do really end up falling in love with these characters and their journey, then I hate to say it, but it's going to come to an end before you even get to see Hanamichi master the sport, or them even go to the Nationals tournament, which they just qualified for. And of course, the good thing is, if you like it that much, you can just go off and read the manga right afterwards. But you know, as an anime, I gotta hold that against it, because I think if you're watching the anime, you probably want to keep watching the anime. But in this case, you just can't do it because it ended, before, like right when it just started getting good and Hanamichi started coming into his own. So I gotta hold that against Slam Dunk. If you watch this, then just know that it just doesn't cover the whole manga. It ends prematurely, so you don't get that sense of satisfaction at the end. You don't feel like, oh yeah, yeah, that was Slam Dunk. Yeah, like the ending is not satisfying at all, because it's just, it's right before the big tournament that they just barely qualify for. And oh man, but that's pretty much the last thing I didn't like about it. Now, let's get into the actual scoring of Slam Dunk. Now, as far as story, I'll give it a 3 out of 5. Now, like I said, it's no Death Note, but I can always appreciate an anime that keeps me interested, that makes me I just gotta see what the next episode is. I gotta see, man. But again, sometimes it could also be a little dull, and I needed to take a break from it as well. But I would say overall, it's good at keeping you tuned in and interested in what's going on. But story isn't really its strongest point, in my opinion. It's just good enough to keep you interested, but it's only so much you can do with basketball. So, what do you expect? Now, action, I'll give it a surprisingly high number, high ranking, 3.5 out of 5. And of course, there's basketball, and those games can be, they can be pretty intense, man. Like, they can get pretty physical. Like, Hanamichi got knocked on his ass and busted his head, and there's injury, and then just the whole process of blocking and defending and getting rebounds. I would definitely say that basketball is a pretty it's a sport that has pretty decent amount of action. But outside of that, just all the fighting, man, like I cannot believe like how much like just fist fighting there was in the earlier part of Slam Dunk. And that's the cause for probably an extra point in the action department. Just those fights early on, man. Like, I really liked that and appreciated it, but I had no idea it was going to be this much just fist fighting in a basketball anime. Animation, I'll give it a 3 out of 5. It's an older anime, so I'm not going to expect to like, I expect a few shortcuts and janky moments here and there, but overall, what I really like is the character designs and the art style. But I would say the only problem with the animation is that, this being a basketball focused anime. Basketball, that's like 10 people on the court moving at the same time. It's not like basketball, or I said basketball. It's not like boxing or some type of fighting anime where you just got to focus on animating like 2 people and their movements. They got to animate a whole team running and jumping and interacting with each other. The intricacies of defense and offense and passing and scoring and, is he traveling and stuff like that. And there were just certain moments where I just felt and I could just tell like they were just kind of taking shortcuts, like, close-ups, just close-ups of the guy dribbling the ball and running, or close-ups of someone's face. But I can understand that because, like I said, basketball, that's 10 people moving and engaging with each other at the same time. So that's a lot of different shit to animate. So I think it'll be really hard to show like the full court action of a basketball game and animate it decently as well. That's why there's a lot of close-up action and stuff like that. But overall, the animation is not bad for an older 90s anime. The music, I'll give it a 2 out of 5. It's not bad. It's not good. There were like maybe 2 tracks that stood out to me. I know one of them I sampled for the Planet Buster mixtape. But yeah, I mean, again, I don't really expect a fucking great soundtrack for most anime. I don't expect like a Cowboy Bebop tier soundtrack, as long as it's, it matches the actual tone of the show. But like I said, it's not good, not bad either. Now, comedy, I have to give it a 4 out of 5. Now, like I said, man, this is a funny fucking anime. Maybe not like, you're not gonna be like just laughing out loud all the time, but just the humor, man. This show is just overflowing with lighthearted humor in almost every episode, and it's always just so witty and well done. Like, it's never like just little corny gags. Like, it's always like just like this funny stuff. Like, whether it's the teammates ripping on each other, or just Hanemichi's goofiness and being terrible at basketball, all the mistakes he's making and stuff like that. The way he always kind of views Akagi as being like he kind of appears as a gorilla in his head because he's so big and all that. So just, man, the humor in this, I did not expect it, but the humor is really one of the strongest points of this anime. Just very fun overall. And Ichi, 0 out of 5, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's nothing really sexual about this anime at all. Of course, you got like, love interests like, Haruko or Nayako, but, they're just normal Japanese schoolgirls. It's not like big Japanese titties and ass all over the place. So not a lot of sexual stuff in this. So, perfect for you PG guys. Are there any vanilla PG guys here? I don't know. But yeah, man. Overall, I'm gonna give it the safe score of a solid 7 out of 10. Overall, I'd say it's a good anime. It just, like I said, it being like 100 episodes of just basketball, at times it can get a little dull. But, just take a little break, watch some JoJo and then get right back into it and you'll be okay. So yeah, that's my slam dunk review. I hope you guys enjoyed it and learned something about basketball as well. I think, because I did like this anime, and I'm really bummed out that it ended prematurely. So this might be one that I check out the manga, like I did with Hajime no Ippo. When I finished watching Hajime no Ippo, I jumped right into the manga, man, because I had to see more. So, I might check this out. I might check out the manga just to see like where the game goes, how far they make it into the national tournament and all that. So, yeah, man, Slam Dunk was cool. Check it out if you're interested, and I'll be back again later. See you guys.